Now we know what's coming, the QAnon drop of the day. The time we get to things that you do, we won't have much to say. On the backs of we the people, you pulled your last charade. You've done us all wrong, and after all that we the people say, we're gonna take it on back. It's not your money, take it on back. It ain't that funny, no way. I hope you hear what I say. Take it on back, it's not your money. Take it on back, it ain't that funny, no way. I hope you hear what I say. Take it on back, it's not your money. Take it on back, it ain't that funny, no way. I hope you hear what I say. Take it on back, it's not your money. Take it on back, it ain't that funny, no way. I hope you hear what I say.
Can I just do a quick vocal test? Can you guys out in YouTube hear me, please? Can I get a 5x5 prime mover? I've changed software settings and I don't know if my voice is audible. Can I get a 5x5, please, mover? Okay, Benji or Carmen, how about a bit of music? We've got 9 or 10 minutes before we actually kick off.
Okay, I'll find another one.
it might be the right time to test the video cast possibility. I'll let you know that in the future. Maybe one more song, Carmen, perhaps?
Well, I had one to play, but it said no matches, so I don't know why it didn't play. Hold on.
Okay.
Donald Trump defeated Hillary. Oh, I believe in yesterday. Suddenly, I can see the truth in front of me. Lord, that red pill tasted bittersweet. Oh, yesterday came suddenly. Why Trump had to run? Now I know we need a change. I wore my red hat and I was slapped across my face yesterday. Socialism tried to change my ways. Then I realized the news is fake. Oh, I believe in yesterday. Why Trump had to run? Now I know we need a change. I wore my red hat and I was slapped across my face yesterday. All my troubles seem to go away. Donald Trump defeated Hillary. Oh, I rejoice in yesterday.
Okay, we're still waiting on the folks to assemble. We've only got a tiny crowd at the moment. Maybe one more song while people are getting shuffled out of bed and so forth. One more song, please, Carmen. Beautiful selection, Carmen. Let's start the show. You with Dumpster Truffles, broadcasting around the world and across the galaxy. Huge hello to everyone that can hear this broadcast. You guys want to introduce yourselves and say hello? And then we'll see what's going on in chat.
Private Benjamin reporting, booted and suited, ready for duty.
And I'm Carmen.
Okay, guys, we've got the second half of a research presentation to roll with this evening. And but we'll start by getting off on the right foot, and that is a devotional. But I will make the caveat before I start. This is not a Christian organization. This is an organization with Christians. That's a very important distinction to make. You don't have to share my faith to be my friend. As long as you're a decent person, I will accept your friendship and your help and your love. And so let's start off on the right foot. Let's remind ourselves why we're doing this. We're here to speak for people with no voice and act for people who cannot. Take it away, Carmen.
Okay, well, Q has posted this portion of scripture several times in his drops. And I got to thinking, we need to kind of look into what these different things are. But it's from Ephesians chapter 6, verses 10 through 18. Finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might. Put on the whole armor of God, that ye may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. Wherefore, take unto you the whole armor of God, that ye may be able to withstand in the evil day, and having done all, to stand. Stand therefore, having your loins girt about with truth, and having on the breastplate of righteousness, and your feet shod with the preparation of the gospel of peace. Above all, taking the shield of faith, wherewith ye shall be able to quench all the fiery darts of the wicked. And take the helmet of salvation, and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God, praying always with all prayer and supplication in the Spirit, and watching thereunto with all perseverance and supplication for all saints. And I got to thinking, what is the full armor of God? How does that apply to us? So I started with the belt of truth. A belt holds things in place. And when you've girded your loins or secured your innermost being with truth, the enemy has a harder time striking where we would be vulnerable. We know truth, and it strengthens our backbone for the battle ahead. And then there's the breastplate of righteousness. When we follow truth into righteousness, knowing that we've done what is right in the eyes of the Lord will put a protection over our hearts and strengthen us with more courage to stand. You make a right decision, and it gives you confidence to make even more good decisions in this journey called life. And then there's our shoes, which that is the gospel of peace. Gospel actually means good news, and Jesus is peace. And in Greek, peace means oneness or wholeness. So basically, our good news in being whole through Jesus is what gives our feet the ability to stand firm in adversity. And then we pick up the shield of faith. A shield is used in battle to deflect the enemy arrows. This one is made of faith, total trust in the Lord. That faith comes by hearing the Word of God and applying it to our lives. And then there's the helmet of salvation. I don't know about you guys, but the devil attacks me in my own mind more than he attacks me anywhere else. Our minds are the greatest battlefield of all. And to keep the enemy out of our thought processes, we have to cover our minds with the continuing work of salvation in our lives. It's not a one-time and done thing. And then we've got the sword of the Spirit, which is the Word of God. That's pretty much self-explanatory. The sword we carry is the Word of God. In doubt, in temptation, in battle, everything we need at hand to fight with is found in the Word. The exact same word Jesus used against Satan when Satan tempted him. Plus, we have the New Testament words of Jesus himself. And sometimes those strengthen me more than anything. And then finally, he said to pray. So, Father, here we are again, thanking you for another beautiful day and everything you have provided us with. Thank you for the truth we find in your word that leads us to search for truth in our daily lives. We ask a special blessing on our president, his family, and everyone who is fighting to make our world a better place. Especially, Lord, protect our military members and their families. It's not an easy life, I'm sure. We ask for healing and restoration for the people of every nation. We are all your creation. Bless the rest of this broadcast, Lord, and help us to retain the information that we'll be needing as we move forward. Thank you most of all for your Son, Jesus, in whose name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Okay, we're ready to roll. We've only got a tiny audience. Can the people listening to this broadcast, maybe if you could reach out to your friends and family who might be awake at this time and notify them and invite them in. The more people we reach, the greater effect we have on the world. So if you can help me gather the flock and get the peeps together, I'd love to hang out with all of you. And as I said earlier, this evening I'll be addressing the second half of the presentation that I started on the Monday. So welcome. Make it real quick. Right now. Hey. See you, Mum. Okay, guys. First of all, let me say hello to everyone. John and Erica, Info Warrior or Storm Eden, and we got Punky Custer and Tess. Good morning, Tess. It's always good to see you. And we got Samo, and I think Laura's in the house as well. Laura, you are always welcome here. If you want to drop some source for me pretty quick, I'll address that immediately if you'd like. And we've got quite a show lined up for you this evening. So let me explain a few things. First of all, this broadcast platform has a feedback loop. It means that you can actually address me directly, and I can address you directly. I don't want an artificial wall built up between... Oh, no. Hot mic. Oh, dear. Anyway. Yes, my mum is listening. Sorry about that, guys. Very unprofessional, but rather amusing, I think. Anyway, so you guys, if you tag me with my name, make sure that it lights up all in the orange boxy thing, and I will address you immediately. I will respond. Tag my name, and I will respond. I'm looking for additional information, corrections to the information I present, or you can ask me questions or ask me to expand on a point. More than happy to do that. And I don't want an artificial divide between myself and you guys. And let's make the most of this platform. And hello, Mum.
Yeah, hi, Dumpster's mom.
Hey, Mom.
Yeah, Mum, I accidentally hot mic'd that phone call. So yeah, get involved, get active, engage with the conversation. This is not like those other channels where it's just people droning on in the background while you chat with each other. I'd like you to engage with the information. And Laura's back. Laura, do you want to post a couple of bits and pieces about Q? You're always on the ball, always on point. I'd like to address those kind of nowishly, if you don't mind. Excellent. Thank you, Puppy Max. And Jen is here. Hey, Jen. So yeah, don't feel that we're in some sort of ivory tower at the pulpit delivering a sermon. This is a chance for us to engage, and I'm learning and sharing alongside all of you at the same time. It's a shared experience, and I don't want an artificial divide between you guys that are listening and the team on Discord. I really don't want that. Let's set a precedent, and let's try and build the army. And Benji, have you got anything to address before I roll with the beginning of the presentation? And Carmen, is there anything that needs to be addressed before I actually kick off?
Not that I can think of at the moment.
Awesome. I'll dive right into it. Crowd is slowly creeping up. Maybe we should wait for let's have a song, if you don't mind, Carmen. Just one more song while people are assembling. The numbers are slowly creeping up. It's very early in America, and peeps are getting out of bed, I would imagine, and getting caffeinated. So, and as I said, if you want to take this moment right now, quickly zap a message to your friends and family who might be interested in this kind of information, and let them know that this broadcast is happening. A song, please, Carmen.
Okay.
They call us deplorable, and we love the name. They got the bodies in the dirt and need someone to blame. Got a penchant for greed and money to spare. They put the dollars in the coffers and the lies in the air. Well, we go one, we go all. I won't push you down, you won't let me fall. One day for sure we will stand tall. Where we go one, we go all. We are the patriots, trust the plan because we have it all and the fate is in our hands. Had a reason to fool us, but we didn't take the bait. They want to take us to hell, but we got guns at the gate. Where we go one, we go all. I won't push you down, you won't let me fall. One day for sure we will stand tall. Where we go one, we go all. We know who they are, and we got them in our sights. Our knowledge is power, they're running for the hills. If the law don't get them, then we the people will. We go one, we go all. I won't push you down, you won't let me fall. One day for sure we will stand tall. Where we go one, we go all. We go all. I won't push you down, you won't let me fall. One day for sure we will stand tall. Where we go one, we go all.
Okay, is Elvis finished playing, Carmen?
I think he is. He just didn't go off the board.
Okay, Elvis is a bit temperamental at the moment. Elvis is the name of our rhythm bot that we use to play music. Yeah, hopefully he'll work for the rest of the evening. He's done so far. He's done so far, which is good. So, okay, folks, welcome to the second half of what was a rather long research presentation. I thought this is a timely presentation. We need to get a handle on what's going on at the moment. We need to look at the broader picture. This is the 40,000 foot view, and I'll zoom in on selected locations. And hopefully this information is enlightening, useful, and engaging. So as I said, this is the second part of what is basically what I would call a situation report on the human species as of right now. This might be a rather long bow to draw, but I think I can manage a sensible delivery of information. I think now is the perfect time to explore the multitude of events in play in our world right now. I'm sure you're all aware that there is a nexus of interrelated and interconnected events, and it's happening right now. We have a lot of things going on, and they all connect with each other. And maybe by exploring the actual circumstances in detail, we can get a handle on exactly where we are as human beings. So, yeah. So I'll make the point that history is always happening. History always happens, obviously. But right about now, there is a lot of history happening. And I mean a lot. This is biblical. This really is biblical. And basically, our species, humankind, is facing what is a series of essentially hurdles. And all of these hurdles are incredibly important in the future of our planet. So these hurdles are a situation we need to overcome. We have to overcome each of these hurdles individually for our species to prosper. And I'll make the point that if we fail to navigate any one of these hurdles that I will address, we will fail as a species. I'm not talking about the end of humanity, but it's certainly a massive rethink of what civilization means. So each of these situations that I'll discuss, it's part of a critical test of humanity. So to recap, on Monday, the topics I dealt with were, first of all, I talked about crunch time. History is coming to a crunch time. Events are interconnected and really quite influential events too. So the events that compose this movement, they're all happening simultaneously. The world is really, really changing. Basically put, it's all happening right about now, and it will accelerate massively. Which brings me to the second topic I covered on Monday, and that was COVID-19, the coronavirus. I did a fairly in-depth there. I gave the hardest source information I could find. And if you need information about that, please refer to the relevant archived post on the Dumpster Truffles YouTube channel. The third thing that I addressed on Monday was the coming financial meltdown. And this section, the gist of this section of discussion is that the whole global financial system is a zombie system. It's dead, but it's still staggering around, and I don't know why it hasn't crashed yet. The financial system has been building over the course of many, many years, and the COVID-19 outbreak in China, it simply triggered what was inevitable. There was a whole series of circumstances around the economic collapse. It was ready to happen. The whole system was hollow. The Federal Reserve is at the end of its lifespan. We're looking at a currency revaluation and possibly a Gassara type event. If you don't know what I'm talking about, again, please refer to the archived show. And so I dealt with COVID-19. The fifth article that I dealt with was a bit woo-woo, and that is alien contact. And I tried to stay out of the weeds with that one. I tried to put a sensible set of ideas together. And the whole idea of alien contact is that it is a pretty straightforward set of ideas. It's pretty basic what we need to understand. Basically, our species is not alone. Q has said this, all but said basically that we are in contact with alien species. And again, if this topic interests you, please again refer to the archives if you wish. The sixth topic that I dealt with on Monday was artificial intelligence. And it's not much of a stretch to say that artificial intelligence is Promethean in nature. Prometheus was a Greek hero who stole fire from the gods. Artificial intelligence, in terms of technological importance to humanity, is as great as the discovery of fire itself. So these are all the topics that were covered in the first half of this presentation, and this evening I will present the following points of discussion. So the seventh point that I will address this evening, I will kick off with this topic. It's automated systems. And basically I'm talking about robots. The bots are here, and I will, of course, go into a little bit of detail about automated systems. The eighth point in this research presentation is networked computing. I'm not going to give you the stuff that you already know about the internet and so forth. I'll be discussing abstract concepts and the future of the internet. And I will also integrate a brief discussion of the 5G rollout and what that means for us. 5G is the future of of networked computing. And I'll also discuss how that relates to artificial intelligence as well. I won't be going into depth. I'll just be addressing each topic, getting the nuts and bolts of it down, and that'll give you the context for what the historical occurrences that are unfolding. And the ninth topic is the reclamation of history. I don't know how else to put this, but we all know that history is a lie. Our knowledge of true history is a critical part of this movement, and I think you'll actually enjoy what I've got prepared for reclamation of history, restoration of the truth. The 10th topic is that of mega-death weaponry, and I will discuss the various types of weapon systems that pose what is essentially an existential threat to our species. And the final topic, I will leave you all with good news. This is really good news. The 11th topic is that of ascension. And this final topic is about the idea that humanity is evolving spiritually. Humanity is undergoing a change. So the discussion of ascension will also end the topics that I present, and it's good news. And then finally, when I wrap this up, I will make concluding remarks, and my conclusion will wrap up the broader issues and implications of the series of interconnected events. In the conclusion, I actually do get out into the weeds a bit, and I'll talk about that when I get there. Anyways, as I said, as a species, if we fail to navigate a path through any one of these issues, it's basically game over. Not necessarily the end of humanity, but certainly drastic consequences. And before I kick off with the second half of this prez, I need all of you to understand that this platform has a feedback mechanism that I really want to make the most of. Okay? If you tag my name in YouTube, I will respond. You can any constructive commentary at all will be welcome. So this isn't just background noise while you chat. And I'll also say that it is a privilege to be able to learn and teach alongside all of you. And I will repeat, get involved. If you have a correction, an addition, or a question, feel free to get the attention of mods or myself. And finally, I will ask you to keep the good vibe going in chat. You guys are the front line, and together we are the public face of Q. And I'll also ask you to spread the word about this little channel. The mission briefing of this platform is to provide you guys with content that is unique and relevant. I'm not going to give you political analysis or Q analysis, not to any great degree anyway. I'm looking for the kind of information that is critical, but you might not have access to. So, and as we know, events are accelerating in the world at the moment. And this team, Carmen Morrison, Private Benjamin, Ozanon, and myself, and other members of this server, we will try and keep pace and provide you with the information that you want and need. And before I actually address the first topic, I will say again, if you missed the first half of this presentation, hit the archive up. But either way, I will try and present tonight's information in a coherent way, even if you just tuned in this evening. This should all make sense to you. Do we have any commentary before I begin? Tesla says, but we're used to being ignored. Hey, that's the other channels, baby. Tess, my friend, you can hit me up anytime. I would welcome the interaction. I know that you're used to being ignored. I'd like to set a precedent for the rest of the shows that I present. And yeah. Anyway, don't be afraid to tag me. Like Tesla says, you're used to being ignored. This is not this is not the other channels. That's all I'll say. Anyways, let's kick off with automated systems. Robots. Robots are here. Robots are here, and we have to learn how to deal with them. And in the very near future, we will be engaging personally with robots. And when I say robots, I'm talking about automated systems. We're already seeing bots at the moment in simple forms. There's a robot in this Discord server right now called Elvis, and he assists us. And robots are going to become more and more complex, more and more interactive, and we can see the thin edge of this right now. So in the very near future, we will be engaging with robots. We can see things like, I'll take an example. My local McDonald's, I do like cheeseburgers. I know I shouldn't patronize McDonald's, but I do occasionally. I love cheeseburgers. There is, hang on, we've got a Terry Ward. I don't believe I've met you, sir. Have a good one, matey. Glad to see you. Anyway, back to robots. The local McDonald's is where I was up to, and at this local McDonald's of mine, there is one cash register, and there are 3 self-serve kiosks, or whatever you want to call them. These self-service kiosks are essentially a automated system. They're the beginnings of robots. And Rhoda Smiley says, Dumpster Truffles in the gang, I am so glad you are here for us. I'm so pleased that you're here as well, Rhoda. And to the rest of the people listening, take Rhoda's lead and hit me up. I will respond. Anyway, where was I? I was babbling on about robots and McDonald's. Anyway, so these self-serve kiosks function to replace the human element. And I always, and let me add, I always use the cash register, even if there's a line for the cash register. I don't want to engage in robots. Info Warrior says, Elvis, don't take us over, please. It's not quite that situation yet, but that's where it's heading, Storm. Every joke has a kernel of truth. Anyway, so we've got automated kiosks at McDonald's that serve to replace the human element. And the natural extension of this is that automated hamburger making machines will probably replace the people working in the McDonald's kitchen. And from there on in, it's not much of a stretch to a McDonald's that is not staffed by any human employee. And it's a brave new world, and that's what our future holds for us. And I'll make the point that gathering up information like this will allow us to navigate the future and to create the future that we want. As I said, in my own small way, I refuse to use the self-serve kiosks, and I will always use the actual cash register. I don't want to see robots I don't want to see robots take the place of the actual human element. So we're looking at a future where McDonald's would not be staffed by any human operation at all. And that's just a very small example of the kind of robotization that we're going to see in the future. So let's talk about robots in general. The first point I'll make is that robots make human beings obsolete. We are redundant technology. Let me put it that way. If you look at a human being compared to a robot, a human being is large. We're relatively large. We're stupid. Okay. We are slow to learn. We are clumsy. We are unpredictable. We are costly to maintain. And most importantly, we also have the function of free will. So a robot can be any size. A robot can be extremely intelligent. A robot is not clumsy because they are purpose designed. They are not slow to learn. It's just a matter of uploading software. They are not unpredictable. You can control what a robot does, and they are not costly to maintain. So if you compare humans to robots, in the very near future, we are technically obsolete. Now, to stretch this idea out a little bit further, if you couple the idea of robotization with artificial intelligence, the robotic revolution will lead us into a future where, again, there are two likely scenarios. And scenario one, robots will run pretty much everything. And that's one possible scenario for the future. And in that possible future, us meatbag human beings would probably be reduced to battery-farmed humans, or potentially much worse. In scenario two, we take control of the technology and the form of the technology and the rollout of the technology, and we would live in a world where robots, technology is structured to coexist with humans, whereby human agency, and when I say agency, I mean individual power to exert your free will on the world. So human agency or power will actually be amplified by robots. I will not even touch the topic of militarization of robotic technology, but that is absolutely a terrifying possibility. As regards militarization of robotic technology, all I'll say is that if you're not familiar with this, grab a pencil and paper and write down Boston Dynamics and find the videos on YouTube of the latest generation of military robots. And these military robots are more effective as soldiers than any human being yet. They're also cheap to maintain. They're extremely effective. They're cheap to produce. They're very controllable. And anyway, that's the end of the section on our robots. And Private Benjamin has posted the text Boston Dynamics. If you're not familiar with the prospects of the future of humanity as regards robots, hit up Boston Dynamics on YouTube, and you'll either be shocked or disgusted or amazed or possibly all three. And do we have any questions from YouTube before I roll with networked computing? Come on, guys, get involved. This isn't just background noise. This isn't just white noise for you guys to chat with each other with. I want to hear what you've actually got to say. I want to see your opinions. I want to hear your questions and your comments. And, okay, I'll move on to networked computing. This is the 8th topic. I'll try and be as brief as I can here. I'll gloss over the obvious stuff. We all know that we all understand the power of networked computing. The device that you are using to access this broadcast is, in Latin, could be termed what is called the omnicopeia, the sum of all human knowledge. It looks like the human race is using internet technology in a way that actually amplifies our own intelligence. It's an extension of our intelligence. It's just a clumsy interface using a computer. Mary Wills has a question. How do you program compassion? Old programmed her. That's a good point about robots. The thing is, robots are essentially a tool, like a hammer or a machine gun or napalm or an automobile. It's just that this form of technology has its own sentience. And this might be obvious, but I'll make the point anyway. It's how the robot is actually programmed that will determine its function. If we ensure that robots are developed to coexist and amplify human society, and yep, Ozanon just posted an image of a rather rudimentary robot. We will be dealing with these things in the very near future. Anyway, getting back to networked computing. Thank you for the comment, Mary, by the way. So, given the state of networked computing, it's allowed an information revolution that has led to the situation we find ourselves in at the moment. Information technology was a precursor to the Q plan. A whole lot of things had to coincide for Q to actually execute this plan. And InfoWarrior says no soul. Exactly, InfoWarrior. Bots are just toasters. We can anthropomorphize them. We can treat them like humans. We can engage with them. We'll have emotions with them. That's unavoidable. And I'll go back to the example of the rhythm bot in Discord. All it does is that it's a rudimentary bot that plays music for the crowd. But we've named it Elvis. And that's imposing human emotion on what is essentially a toaster. So thank you, InfoWarrior. Can I remind you guys, if you want my attention, tag me so that it comes up in all red and glowing letters. I will respond. Where was I? Anyway, what we've seen of information technology so far as the technological trajectory of the internet, or the growth and utilization of the internet, to put it a different way, I think this bodes well for the future. And hopefully this pattern of human beings being in control of technology is replicated in the rollout of other technologies. But there are quite a few pitfalls in our future. And if we look forward, we can see the pitfalls and we can avoid them. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about 5G. 5G is the future of networked computing. So to start off with, there's a lot of hype, a lot of misinformation, a lot of bad information about 5G. 5G itself is not a death ray mind control weapons platform. It's just not. It is, however, a platform that can be weaponized, and I'll discuss that. What 5G is it is a massively amplified communication network. And think about 5G like this, and this will require some abstract thought, so please listen carefully. Our current internet generates what is called a realm. I won't go into detail, but we all know the concept of cyberspace. Cyberspace is its own separate etheric realm that exists in an intangible way, and it's generated by networked computing. So we can measure, or at least get a handle on cyberspace in terms of locations and traffic. So we have obviously locations in the internet like the one that I'm using right now. And then there is traffic, which is what we are engaging with at the moment. And this combination of location and traffic actually generates cyberspace, a separate realm. And this is where it gets a little bit complicated. So now suppose that cyberspace, for example's sake, consists of 100 locations, each of which is connected to every other location by traffic. This idea, and this abstract idea, describes the current virtual space of the internet. And remember, we're only using 4G. So if there's 100 locations, for example's sake, in a 4G network, 5G will actually massively increase the actual virtual cyberspace by a factor of at least 100. And General Lane says, I haven't reached 5G at all. I am excited for this. Yes, provided we can get a handle on the technology, this is a good future. And Mary has another comment. Dumpster, warrior, scientists are generally driven and narcissistic. I don't want a robot like Gates who desires depopulation. Scary. That is so true, Mary. We don't actually need robots, but they're going to pop up anyway. And we can't let our technology overlords like Gates control the form of the technology. We just can't. And we're in the process of, us as a community and a movement, of taking back power. That's the whole idea. We want to increase our own personal agency. And through our personal agency, we can change the world. And Mary says such a robot might release COVID-19 on China. Robots could be absolutely diabolical, and I'm talking really diabolical. But let's avoid that future. Let's be positive. Anyway, back to 5G. 5G actually increases the actual virtual cyberspace by a massive factor, at least 100. So a factor of 100 is a very conservative figure. So going back to our abstract imaginary cyberspace with 100 locations, in 5G, the virtual space would become 10,000 locations. And remember, this is a very low ball figure for the actual increase in the complexity and size of cyberspace. Anyway, so what this translates into for us is a world where everything, and I mean absolutely everything, is an online device. So at the moment, your household probably has at most 3 or 4 online devices. You might have an Alexa, a couple of laptops, a Kindle, and a games console. And these are all connected to cyberspace. They are locations in cyberspace. And this is 4G or lower. But 5G makes possible over 100 connections per household. Way more than that, in fact. 100 is a very low-ball conservative estimate. 5G will itself create an integrated computer network called the Internet of All Things. Everything in your house, pretty much everything in the world, will be smart. And I use that in quotation marks. It's smart. And it will be connected. Everything. You, your cat, your toaster, your kids, your car, your money. Everything will be part of a massive 5G information system. 5G simply put, massively amplifies the virtual real estate of the internet. I have no firm idea of the implications of this kind of technology, but I will say that at a given point in our future, your fridge will be as smart or smarter than yourself. So, to extend this idea, if we combine 5G with artificial intelligence and robotization, we have a cocktail recipe for a very, very strange world. And there is an author called Aldous Huxley who wrote a book called A Brave New World. And Huxley termed the human adjustment to technology technoshock. And our civilization is going to go through a period of what can only be called technoshock. People will either adjust to the new world or they will not. And you can draw from that your own conclusions. And Laura says, I just want a robot to clean my house. Absolutely. That's the kind of technology that will be the thin edge of the wedge. And Benji says, laugh my ass off like Rosie from the Jetsons. That's right. That's probably the first role that we'll see sophisticated robots in our lives. I won't go into the details of an integrated 5G artificial intelligence robot scenario. I just don't have the time, and it's way too complicated. And I'll make the point again that there is nothing stopping you from doing your own research. There is no substitute for your own research. The device that you have in front of you has the sum total of human knowledge. So hopefully I'm just prodding you and getting you used to the idea that you can do your own research. And again, I find myself making the point that we need to exercise our agency, our personal power to shape the world of the future. 5G might not be able to vaporize you with a death ray, but it is the beginning of an integrated system that could completely control our lives. And it sounds potentially bad. It could be potentially wonderful. Again, it's all about shaping the future. Yeah, Mary Will says, I resist, still using cash. That's a very good point. Currency, hard currency, gold, or gold-backed currencies or gold-backed cryptos, we have to maintain that in our society because that, as a mechanism, actually amplifies our own personal agency. If we have nothing but digital cash, that's giving up our power. That's giving up our agency. And InfoWarrior says the waves off those towers are dangerous dumpster. Yes, that is true. But the actual technology of 5G uses what is called tight beam microwave transmission. And that's not actually hazardous to you as long as you don't get in the way of the beam. It's a focused beam of microwaves, and that's the mechanism of information transfer. So remember that we already live in a soup of electromagnetic smog. You've got the magnetic field, the electromagnetic field generated by your house's electrical system, the computers, and so forth. And InfoWarrior says silver. I actually anticipate a future where silver and gold might actually be usable currency. It's all going to change. I don't actually understand what is going to change, but let's get a handle on the ideas. Good morning, Jeremiah Valancourt. Gold will bring down the Fed. And yes, I believe Trump is going to, the federal system is at the end of its life cycle. Trump will reset the economy using what will be called a gold-backed crypto system. And the upshot of that is that form of currency will not require any central control at all. And that's all I'll say about that. Pleased to meet you, Jeremiah Valancourt. Welcome aboard. Anyway, I'll get on to topic number 9, and that is the reclamation of history. Okay, so I am of the opinion that all of human history, all the stuff that we read about, the whole of human history as we understand it, it can be couched in terms of competing secret societies. I'll explain this. If we have secret societies manipulating the world, we have a secret history. That's the upshot of secret societies. So if and when we reclaim our history, the context of every social construction, that is, the components that make up our society, it'll be brought into very sharp focus. Okay? So let's take warfare, which I think is probably the best example of the obfuscation and the lies of history. I will argue, and this is a debatable point, InfoWarrior makes the point that they don't like you, they could turn off your wealth. That's why we need actual hard currency, and a gold-backed crypto would be ideal. And Private Benji says they are crumbling. They certainly are. We're going through momentous times, people. Anyway, where was I? Anyway, so I'll make the point here, and this is a debatable point at that. Every war, at least in modern times, every war was an engineered event. Both sides of every war were promoted and funded by the same hidden hands that the hidden hands of history. And I'm talking about secret societies and so forth. And the goals of these hidden hands in history they're inscrutable. But there are a few obvious patterns. We can't see the actual hidden hand of history, but we can detect it and by generating an information silhouette. So first up, we have the almighty dollar. War is big business. The second point is that the actual death toll of human conflict was a manufactured circumstance, which I can only describe as a mass blood sacrifice. Okay? Everyone that's died in modern warfare, it was an unnecessary death, and we can lay that at the foot of the cabal. Anyway, the third point, warfare, the story of warfare, is basically the story of nations like nothing else. We tend to define ourselves by our military history. And InfoWarrior says, if there is an EMP, all lost, not safe. InfoWarrior, if an EMP is detonated, we will lose everything that wasn't manufactured before about 1965. It won't actually kill us, but it will knock out everything. It'll knock out the power grid, the communications grid, and pretty much every device that we rely on in the modern world. An EMP would not be a good situation, and thank you for the comment, InfoWarrior. And Jeremiah says, gold and silver hard currency. No crypto, please. Crypto equals control. You could be right there. That's not a bad point. And Mary Wills is talking about V2K. And I believe that's a mechanism of technology that actually allows, this is really weird, by using things like pulsed radar and microwave transmissions, you can actually induce thoughts and simulation of sound inside a person's skull. So the type of wave for V2K, that kind of technology, is called an ELF wave, and that's extremely low frequency. And it's called ELF. It uses extremely low frequency radio waves, and it can actually cause the skull to resonate at the exact right frequency to induce the idea of sound inside your own skull. It's absolutely scary. Maybe I'll come back to that point on another night. Thank you for the comment, Mary. That's pretty much all I know about V2K. Anyway, so the story of nations is basically the story of warfare. That's how we define ourselves culturally. So let's take the outcome of World War II. Big bad evil Hitler was defeated by the good and noble USA. That's the story of history. Now, I'm not a fan of Hitler or virtually any other politician, but think of it like this. If the Nazis had won, the Nazis would be the great and noble ones, and the USA would be painted as an immoral enemy. Winners write the history books, and the hidden hands of history decide the winners of every war. At the very least, they back both sides, and that way they're sure of coming out on top. And that's just one tiny example of a system of manipulation that has existed as long as civilization. And that's towards the end of this section. And as a society, as a civilization, we don't know where we're going unless we know where we've been. We only know where we've been through an accurate history. It means renegotiation of it's renegotiation of how we understand the world is what I'm trying to say. And InfoWarrior is very scary. I'm not exactly sure what that references, but if it was about the V2K technology, yes, very scary indeed. Very scary. Yes, did someone want to say something?
Dumpster. Yeah, with the patents and now that we know it's been leaked and who possesses those, and with them taking out the Fed, wouldn't that go into the governments of the citizens?
That's a good point. We're in a stage, I think, where we could possibly renegotiate what the political structures that control us, maybe.
Exactly. Now, what if we, the people, had control of those patents? That way we would guard against the old guard type attitude seeping back in our society. We need to get a new moral direction here. We can't have the option of it being utilized as a weapon. Because that's what I'm seeing on my platforms, the fear base. Yes, I know I'm aware of 5G. I know how they have done it in the inner cities with gang stalking. So, yeah, it is dangerous, but there's got to be some benefit to it without it being a danger.
Yes, technology itself is inherently neutral. It's who designs the technology and who uses the technology.
And who controls it. Now that we know we don't want anybody else, I think as the movement has multiplied into millions, I think we've proven ourselves. I know Joe M. on Twitter said he had, Twitter's kind of showing it's maybe flipped white hat too. They have archived from the very first day of 2017, so Q is a record now. So hopefully we can kind of intercede the little AI bots.
Awesome. There's a comment
I
from
just get
Puppy
excited.
Max. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I mean, I'm just excited with, them busting up Facebook and Google and, I just know what's coming. I can feel it. I feel the energy, turning in our direction. I don't know. Can you feel it?
Yeah, everyone knows something's up. Even the TV zombies that are stuffing junk food into their mouth and watching game shows, they know that something's up. But the people who are still asleep, they just can't quite put their finger on it.
Oh, yeah, those are the anxious ones. Those are the ones that say, hey, turn that anxiety into excitement and ride the waves. Because, hey, we don't have control over anything, really. At least we can control our minds on how we deal with all the information.
Yeah. There's a great comment from Puppy Max that makes the point about reclamation of history perfectly. And Puppy Max says dumpster truffles, but in fact, the Nazis have won the war. And Project Paperclip is one example. And that's a perfect example. Project Paperclip is where the United States basically stole as many German scientists and high-ranking Nazis as possible and brought them to the United States for use primarily in things like the early space program, rocket technology, and so forth. And I believe the Nazis were also part of the beginning of Project Monarch and things like that. And that's just another example that we don't understand the accurate points of history. We've been lied to and manipulated by a very long-term psyop. Thank you, Puppy Max. That's an excellent point.
Yeah, he's spot on.
Okay, that brings me to 10. Mega death weaponry. And I think I spoke earlier about this, but it's fair enough to describe humans as silly little monkeys that are too damn smart for our own good. There is a lag between the edge of technology and humanity that is it's a gap between technology and society that is always going to be there because technology is always going to accelerate. So the pace of technology totally outstrips the human ability to manage it and to integrate it into a healthy society. And I'll readdress the point of Aldous Huxley's book, A Brave New World, and this is called Technoshock. And that's where people simply cannot deal with the changes in technology. And this is going to be front and center in the near future. So military technology, I hate to go back to warfare, but warfare has been a very important part of human history. Military technology is probably the most outstanding example. And I don't want to go back to warfare again, but I will. So we're talking about megadeath weapons. And megadeath is a measurement of people being killed by the millions. So conventional weapons are not included in this discussion. And when I say conventional, I'm talking about tanks, small arms, chemical explosives. These are simply not megadeath weapons. They are very effective weapons and very powerful, but they are not megadeath weapons. As an aside, I would probably include chemical weapons as in this class of conventional weapons because they're simply not capable of megadeath. They're capable of killing hundreds of thousands, but probably not millions. So what I'm talking about is called megadeath weaponry. So megadeath, as I said, it's a unit of measurement for weaponry that kills people in the millions. And going back to World War II again, World War II had a megadeath of 120. That's 120 million people that were killed during the course of the war. So the three types of megadeath weapons that I will discuss are nuclear weapons, biological weapons, and nanoscale weapons. I chose to admit mass robotization of the military as a megadeath weapon because this presentation is already too fat. But robotization could also be considered another form of megadeath weaponry. Mary Wills says, viewing yourself as an animal perverts all your theories. Yes, when I said silly little human monkeys, I was just talking in a very abstract way. Thank you for your comment, Mary. And Principle Driven is with us. PD, how you doing? Good to see you. Anyway, where was I? Nuclear weapons, biological weapons, and nanotype weapons. So let's start with nuclear weapons, as it is the simplest weapons platform that could decimate a global population. If you talk hard facts, there are approximately 14,000 individual nuclear weapons, nuclear devices. And if you put that into terms of firepower per head of humanity, the nuclear weapons combined, all the nuclear weapons, all 14,000 of them combined, amount to about 1.5 tons of dynamite for every person on the planet. This is a ridiculous amount of firepower. If this volume of firepower were used, it would mean 99.99% death of the planet, megadeath, massive scale. Now, worse still, even a small nuclear exchange would cause a nuclear winter. In my opinion, even a small nuclear exchange is very unlikely to occur, But we have to consider the situation of countries like India, China, Israel, and these are all nuclear powers that are in a very heightened state of political tension or outright war. So India and Pakistan, if we take that example, they regularly exchange artillery fire across the Kashmir border, and they are technically in a state of war. It's not much of a stretch to see India and China going at it in the future. And that's going to happen because India and China are both rising powers. They're going to come into conflict at some point, and that could lead to a limited nuclear exchange or a relatively small nuclear exchange. And InfoWarrior says, plus nuclear power stations dumpster. Absolutely. I can't address that this evening, but nuclear energy is something we can do without. And thanks, InfoWarrior. Anyway, where was I? So we've got places like India, China, and Israel that are in either a state of war or a constant state of low intensity combat or extreme political tensions. So the majority of the really large nuclear weapons are basically obsolete garbage left over from the Cold War. Remember, nuclear technology is 70 years old, and some of the nuclear stockpile of Russia and America is 5 decades old. So nuclear weapons have only been addressed for the sake of being complete. And now I'll deal with biological weapons, and that brings everything into sharp focus because COVID-19 is among us now. And there's a comment from Mary. Biden sold our supersonic nuclear missile designs to China. Brennan did this in Project Merlin. No guarantees whose hands these things fall into. Mary, you are spot on. The biggest problem is loose nuclear weapons. And as I understand it, there are over a dozen nuclear weapons, at least, that are unaccounted for at the moment. Nuclear terrorism is I hate to say it, but sooner or later you're going to crawl out of bed one morning and see a mushroom cloud over a major city. I think that's pretty much inevitable. I don't want to be despondent or anything, but that's one possibility we really have to prepare for. And you also addressed the idea that Biden sold out secret military technology to China. Brennan and Biden are traitors. China is doing what you would expect China to do. Biden and Brennan are doing what you would expect politicians to not do. Thank you for your comment, Mary. And Private Mover says, combat the Cold War with Megadeth or Robitussin. Yes, thank you. So that brings me back to biological weapons, and bioweapons are by far and away the biggest threat facing the planet. COVID-19, as discussed earlier on Monday night, is a fart in a teacup compared with some forms of bioweaponry. COVID-19 has a R0 factor of less than 5, roughly. The R0 is a measurement of the transmissibility of a pathogen. So an R0 of 5 for COVID-19 means that for each person that becomes infected with COVID-19, they will spread it to 5 more people. And COVID-19 has a morbidity rate of less than 15%. It's a complicated situation, but it's a relatively low morbidity. Hey, Docs. Good to have you aboard, mate. Anyway, so for COVID-19, the transmission vector is the flu virus. And that's just one platform of bioweapons, one vector that scientists can use to create a bioweapon. Now, a bioweapon that was not based on the corona flu virus, but based on typhus or typhoid fever, whatever you want to call it, a bioweapon based on typhoid fever could potentially have an 80% rate of morbidity with an R0 of close to 20. Remember, R0 is the transmission factor. So the real problem is not COVID-19. The real problem is the potential for the release of a second or a third or a fourth bioweapon. The release of additional bioweapons at some point in the future. The precedent has been set. Bioweapons have been used once. I don't know what the circumstances of COVID-19 getting out into the environment is, but if it happened once, it can happen again. And COVID-19 is pretty tame as far as a bioweapon goes. And Mary Wills has a comment. COVID-19 may target Asian males. Let's wait for the stats and see. Spot on, Mary. You've done your homework. In Asian males, in all people, in the epithelial lining of your lungs, the mucous membranes of your lung, there are what are called ACE2 receptors. And in Asian males, in some Asian populations, the ACE2 receptors are 6 times higher than the background population. So COVID-19 may be a partially effective, racially specific bioweapon. But there is also the possibility that it simply popped out in Asia, thus Asian people die. I'm not over that information thoroughly, but thank you for the comment, Mary. Okay. Anyway, the precedent has been set with bioweaponry. And now I get to the really disturbing point. Bioweaponry would also be the weapon of choice for lunatic terrorists. And to really shake things up a little bit, technology that involves the genetic manipulation of viruses and bacterium is, more or less, made possible by a relatively simple genetic engineering technology known as CRISPR. Okay? The technology to manipulate these kind of weapons is already tried, tested, proven, and out in the open. So, to really scare the pants off you, a CRISPR setup, capable of genetically manipulating organisms like coronavirus and typhus, a CRISPR setup is available on a commercial basis for less than $500,000. Okay, it's basically a retail platform at the moment. And the status of CRISPR at the moment is virtually that of a cottage industry. And I do understand that step-by-step instructions for backyard gene editing labs is available online. So this technology, it's out in the open, and it's within the reach of someone with $500,000 and a bone to pick with the rest of humanity. So within the near future, we could have a situation where a lone maniac with a $500,000 could potentially create a bioweapon. It's an outside chance at the moment, but it's becoming more and more tangible as time passes. So I don't want to worry you, but let me put it this way. If you're about to be run over, turning your back on the car will not stop you getting run over. If you see the car coming, you can get out of the way. And that's the power of this. That's the importance of this information. So the final form of megadeath weapons is nanoscale weapon platforms. And thankfully, this technology is still in its infancy. But I will describe the use of nanotech as a weapons platform. So if you're familiar with nanotechnology, you will be ahead of the game here. So to begin with, a single nanotech organism, I think a nanotech organism is pretty much the only term that fits. So a single nanotech organism called an assembler needs to be created. This nanoscale assembler is basically a tiny little robot that is capable of assembling other things. Crucially, an assembler could assemble another assembler robot. So assemblers can reproduce each other. An assembler is effectively a new form of life, mechanical life. Now, an assembler could replicate exponentially by reproducing itself, and then the assemblers would begin to build nanostructures to kill these nanostructures that assemblers could assemble could be used to kill a biological organism like humans. Now, an assembler would be about 120 nanometers in size. As I said, the technology is in its infancy, but these kinds of things will definitely appear. I should also add that this kind of technology is very different from nuclear and bioweapons because it has a virtually limitless number of positive applications. So it's about grabbing technology by the throat and hanging on. And again, I make the point that these technology systems do not exist in a vacuum. These systems are being integrated with other technology systems, and the rollout is in full swing. So I will leave this topic with the notion that we, the 99%, should have the power to exert control over weaponry. Bioweapons, for example, are sheer madness. All bioweapon stocks need to be destroyed, and there is absolutely no reason, zip zilch nada, that justifies the creation or use of these weapons. And Mary Will says if they can create retroviruses that enter DNA, we are screwed. Yeah, in short, Mary, you're spot on. Thank you for the comment. Excuse me while I have a sip of coffee. Okay, guys, are we ready to move on to the next topic? This one will, I'm sure Private Benji will have more than a little bit to say about this one. This is the final topic. There's still a conclusion to come. But this is about what is known as ascension. And yeah, I'll just get into the presentation. I think I've got it all written down. Anyway, I'm ending this set of topics with ascension because I want to end on a positive note. At the situation we are in at the moment, it's not all bad news. This is the final topic, and I will leave you on a positive note. A great many people, myself included, have a belief that all the problems we face, everything, all the monsters and bogeymen and evil killer clowns that face humanity, all the stuff that I've discussed on Monday and this evening, all the problems we face are simply the symptoms of an emerging and evolving form of humanity. So when we deal with these issues that I've previously described, we will have emerged from what can only be described as a dark age. You're all familiar with the medieval ages. They're referred to as the Dark Ages for a reason. It was dark. It was a very difficult time frame to operate as a society. And if you look at the trials and tribulations are just the birth pains of what I truly think will be the beginning of a shining age of humanity. And every source that I find on ascension is different, and everyone's opinion on ascension is also unique. So I would say that the 19th century, modern history, will be looked back on from the future as a very, very dark age. Remember, we had 2 world wars, the use of nuclear weapons, the Cold War. Anyway, I'll get back to ascension. So the overwhelming theme in ascension, and this is a common theme that I found in many disparate sources, is that what most people call the raising of vibration. I personally don't actually like this term because it's a bit of a catch-all marshmallow term. What I do understand about ascension is that it is some sort of spiritual development of humans. I recall a very good analogy for ascension, and that is, at the moment, us people, we are essentially children. And from our position as children, we have no concept of adulthood. So once we pass through ascension, if and when and how, I don't know, we will be able to look back at the childhood of humanity. So whatever ascension means or manifests itself as, it is already beginning, in my opinion. And I will make the contention that there exists among the whole world what I have no accurate terms to describe except for a psychic tension. Language simply isn't capable of describing the concepts that I'm dealing with. I have no good words to describe it. So this psychic tension, everyone can feel it, but very few people can put their finger on exactly what is happening. Another way to think about it or describe it is a shift in what is known in Latin as the spiritus mundi. This means the all spirit, and this is some sort of psychic internet that we are all connected to. And this spiritus mundi is beginning to increase in frequency. The vibrations of the planet are raising. Again, I'll say I don't like the term frequency, but again, the language to describe this eludes me. In any case, humanity cannot emerge from this dark age without being radically changed for the better. Whatever ascension means or is, I'm not sure, but I feel positive about the future. Go for it, Benji. Money Grip says a very dark age indeed. Anthrax vaccine used on military, depleted radioactive uranium weapons used in Desert Storm, damaging our DNA. We're living through the dark ages, but we're also living through the renaissance that will end them. Thank you for the comment, Money Grip. Oh, and Breezy's in the room. How you doing, Breeze?
Did you want to comment on Ascension?
If you've got stuff to say, I'd like to hear it. I know this is a pet topic of yours. I introduced the ideas, but I'm sure you've got more source to add. Just a moment. Mary says, dumpster. In the path or the way of life, the first 6 steps are on the plane, but the double portion ascends toward the face of God. It's a spiritual existence. I'll go with that. I'll agree with that opinion. Thank you, Mary.
Well, I certainly wouldn't disagree because I found through my upbringing, and yes, I was raised a Christian, and believe me, a cross between Church of Christ and Holy Roller Pentecostal, I've had to kind of weave in and out of the norms. I haven't been able to reconcile that during my younger years. I would drink and party, stuff till I got married and had kids and body-dotty. Anyway, what Q taught me was to be open, especially, when we're greeting our nation together, for the big Jubilee. Because I know in my spirit the plan is God's plan. Not a Q plan, not a Trump plan, but God's plan. So as I reconcile each thing, because see, the 12 steps got me sober. But the God steps brought me closer in my spirit to Him. And I learned through some of the mystics that some of their ways, like meditation or like things that I read or listen to, I no longer listen to secular music. I just allow it to, kind of feed my spirit. And then, too, each time I reconcile, I deal with the 5 stages of grief. I always say I have 17 cents to add always. People say, I got 2 cents to add. Well, I got 17. I put the 5 stages of grief because everybody has to reconcile something in their life. You have to go through anger, denial, bargaining, depression, till you come to the greatest gift that God gives us, the mercy of acceptance. Now, how we choose to go down the path to greet Him that feeds our soul is what's important. And I found that we're having a consciousness level up, because this is a 3D and a 5D, 40,000 feet kind of view. if you can understand that. If that makes sense. Might be just me popping off my mouth.
Mm. Yeah, that was pretty good analysis. Thank you, Benji. I'll add to that. As a person, I don't feel quite complete. I have my faith, I have my knowledge, I have my life, but there's just something missing that I'm waiting for. If that makes any sense, I'm not sure how to describe it.
Oh, exactly. Like I learned through some of my Hindu and Buddhist friends, and oh God, they're such beautiful people. But fasting, and then I had to go back because even though I read it as a kid, the Bible, and research the traditions of fasting, and actually, it's a health benefit I found in my nursing career and studying, what I know. But it's just done good for my body, which feeds my soul to where I can have energy to do His will every day. I always said, I'm not here for applause, I'm here for the cause. And I kind of feel like God blesses us, or at least bless me. And maybe I did level up, including meditation and changing what I put in my ears and what I read or the images or movies that I watch. I kind of reset my moral compass, let's say.
I'm glad you touched on morality because I deal with that issue in just a moment. My own thoughts, prompted by what Benji said, is I'll use the analogy of playing a video game. If you remember the old Sega Mega Drive, those cartridge games, those kind of games, they had what is called an end of level boss. And that was some sort of big monster at the end of the game that you had to defeat to complete the game. And I think that we're at the point now where we're facing the end of level boss. And when we win, and we will, it'll be time to get a new video game. And I don't know what that game will be like. So that's part of my understanding of Ascension. Wow, Money Grip says Atari. I'm not that old, man. I'm an Xer. Hmm. Okay. Shall I continue with the next topic, the conclusion? Okay, concluding remarks. Now, indulge me here. This is my own thought, and I'm going to get really quite speculative here, even more so than the rest of the previous topics. I'm also going to go a bit science fiction for just a moment. And at this point of the presentation, I've tried really hard not to wander too far out into the weeds, but I have anyway. So the sci-fi analogy, if you step back from a moment and look at humanity from a detached and an abstract way, say you were an alien being and you were observing the Earth and trying to understand it. What is happening on planet Earth at the moment? Okay. Now take the idea that there are multiple civilizations in the world. Jenna Elaine, I am an Xer and I played Atari. I may have played Atari. I think I played Asteroids, and I think there was a game called Pitfall. But I was very young when I played those games. And Money Grip says, I will choose a path that's clear. I will choose free will. And it's about keeping the power to enforce our free will. Good point, Money Grip. And Breezy's an Atari player as well. Okay, so okay, take for example the abstract idea of an alien technical civilization. The only baseline, the only sample we have is our own civilization, but we can use that as a baseline and draw extrapolations from it. Every technical civilization, ours included, must pass through the phase of development that we are in the midst of right now. The technology is in our hands, and right about now, it has the potential to end humanity. I've been through all the nightmare scenarios. It's a possibility, but like I said, turning your back on the car will not stop you getting run over. If you see the car coming, you can get out of the way, and that's the idea of this part of the presentation. In my opinion, I actually think more than a few technical civilizations, and I'm talking about galaxy-wide, other intelligent civilizations, I think a goodly portion of them have failed to navigate the circumstances that humanity finds themselves in. Please pay close attention. It's quite an abstract idea. Honor is here. How you doing, mate? Good to see you. Anyway, and we got CC as well. Anyway, so these civilizations, these imaginary abstract alien beings, they could have obliterated themselves in any number of different ways, and I've described most of them in this research presentation. But the ones that have made the leap, those species that lived through these times, dealt with the issues of an emerging civilization, and achieved ascension, these would be the only ones we would be in contact with or make contact with in the future. Every other species that failed to deal with these technological circumstances, we would have no contact with because they failed to ascend. That's a really complicated idea. I'll repeat it. So, the only technical civilizations that would be at play in the galaxy that we would come into contact with are the ones that actually dealt with the set of circumstances that we find ourselves in at the moment. The ones that didn't make the technological hurdles, they would no longer exist, so they would not be in the galaxy. They failed to ascend. So, or whatever you want to call it, anyway. So this raises a really interesting point. From our perspective, dealing with these potentially species-ending technological circumstances requires what we would have to consider as a morally correct attitude. We need morality to govern the technology we produce. We need to be morally positive to survive our own technology. I hope that's clear. So now let me describe it in very plain terms. Evil or immoral races, alien races, would not have had the morality or the moral compass for their species to successfully navigate through the circumstances that our race is experiencing right now. This means that any race we encounter will have a positive moral compass. The bad guys wouldn't survive, so the only ones left are the good guys. Now, this raises all sorts of philosophical questions, and I hope I've got you thinking. I'm not going to touch religion here, not at all. I'm just not. That's for another time, another place. And I'm getting close to the end of this pres now, so as a tail end to this, I will add a rather bleak implication. There is the possibility that a morally evil species could pass through these technical phases, but only if they were prepared to discard all morality. So the majority of races in the galaxy are going to be good, positive, moral entities, but there's going to be a very small fraction that are going to be really completely immoral. There's no middle ground in this kind of situation. So a small number of alien technical civilizations will be utterly corrupt. So now, consider the Q movement in that light. It's enforcing morality onto the future. That's what will set us free. That is why we will succeed. That is the strength of humanity. And my way, doesn't moral believes in God. I'm not going to make any guesses about alien religion. But yeah, I will say that the good and noble religions of this world provide us with a moral compass. Without some sort of philosophical, metaphysical yardstick like Christianity or Buddhism, we don't know what is right and what is not. If you don't have this moral yardstick, you are amoral. You have no reference point. It's a moral grey zone. And John says, moral is caring for your fellow man. That's exactly true, John. That's exactly what we're doing. And good morning, My Way and John. And Money Grip says, miss you from the platform I will not discuss. Dumpster. Pleased to make your reacquaintance, Money Grip. And Jeremiah says, I really didn't need Q to tell me the country was being taken over by an evil cabal, only to know that something is being done about it. That's right. It's a positive thing. Anyway, so if we had a small number of thoroughly corrupt human beings trying to hijack the future out from under the other 99%, the 99%, that's us, would need a strong moral compass to navigate the problems we face. And this is a good one, John. He who shall not be named. PSB. Ha ha ha. Oop, I said it, dolt. Anyway, so if we had a small portion of thoroughly corrupt human beings trying to steal and hijack the future right from under our noses, we, the 99%, need a strong moral compass to navigate the problems we face. And as I said, that's the practical use of religion. In this instance, Christian behavior is its own reward. Whether or not you believe in God or an afterlife, or whether you believe in reincarnation, whatever, it has a practical and useful role in guiding our civilization through these hurdles. So, in my opinion, we have to win, and we will win. Humans are basically good, and we are basically positive creatures. And collectively, our species can thread the needle, so to speak. And when I say thread the needle, I mean there is a very small window of opportunity to navigate the problems we face, and I call that threading the needle. It requires precision, it requires morality, it requires awareness, and it requires action. And that is pretty much a metaphysical description of the Q movement. So we'll look back on the 19th century probably as the darkest part of a very, very long and very dark age in humanity. Now I'm getting towards the tail end, and I'll let you guys know the source for these concluding remarks was actually a bottle of malt liquor and an old friend of mine. About 18 months ago or so, we sat down and got absolutely loaded and discussed the big questions, and I actually took notes during the discussion or conversation, argument, whatever you want to call it. And that, dear friends, is where I will leave the presentation. And if you guys want to take over for a little while, I have to recalibrate my nicotine levels. And yeah. Thank you for indulging me. Thank you for listening.
I'm gonna call a song and you can finish up.
You're roboting, sister. I couldn't hear you.
Mic check.
Comms good.
got a song or two, and then you can read the little private blog from about ascension and the symptoms and the levels.
Okay, I can do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, make me dance. Play me some songs.
Everybody thank Carmen. Beautiful music. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. This is what Sister sent me. I found it pretty interesting. I don't understand all of it, but a lot of it did make sense to me. It says, these are the symptoms of ascension sickness. Pay attention. You are not dying, even though you might feel like it. Until I came across this information, I didn't know what was hitting me. However, like clockwork, following particularly challenging times and major efforts to maintain higher frequency, I experience every one of the following symptoms found at the end of this brief essay. Many people who are walking the journey to ascension report a particular phenomenon that they find difficult to explain. They describe a period of sickness or illness that cannot be ascribed to their physical or mental health. Their symptoms puzzle doctors and seem to flicker in and out of them at random, but there is nothing random about it. What these people are experiencing is ascension sickness. This is the natural reaction our bodies have to the ascension process. What is ascension? Ascension is, put simply, the elevation of our energy levels to a higher frequency. In common spiritual parlance, ascension often describes the final elevation of our energy frequencies into the higher dimensions of consciousness. This is just the last stage in the longer process of ascension that begins with our spiritual awakening. As we learn karmic lessons and improve our spiritual well-being, what we are actually doing is harnessing and elevating our spiritual energies. With each elevation, we have, in essence, ascended. Ascension sickness tends to arise when our body is struggling to keep up with the rate of spiritual ascension. It is a natural response to a process that the human body is not very good at responding to. Essentially, ascension sickness is what happens when the body tries to fix the effects of spiritual ascension. There are many symptoms of ascension sickness. This is a list of the most common ones. Headaches and migraines, nausea, dizziness, changes in vision, changes in hearing, changes in taste and smell, muscle aches and pains, joint pains, stomach and digestive problems, light sensitivity. Most of the symptoms we experience are individual to us as they relate to the spiritual work we have done to affect our ascension. For example, if we have recently activated or opened our heart chakra, this may manifest an ascension sickness that involves chest pains. Dealing with ascension sickness. Unfortunately, there is not a lot we can do about ascension sickness except to let it pass. This is simply a fact of living a spiritual life. We all have to bear the drawbacks of spiritual ascension as well as we all can reap the rewards of it. 7 things that affect your vibration frequency from the point of view of quantum physics. Vibration in quantum physics means everything is energy. We are vibrant beings on certain frequencies. Every vibration is equivalent to a feeling, and in the world, vibrational. There are only 2 species of vibrations, positive and negative. Any feeling makes you broadcast a vibration that can be positive or negative. First is your thoughts. Every thought emits a frequency to the universe, and this frequency goes back to origin. So in the case, if you have negative thoughts, discouragement, sadness, anger, fear, all this comes back to you. This is why it is so important that you take care of the quality of your thoughts and learn how to cultivate more positive thoughts. Second is the companies. The people around you directly influence your vibration frequency. If you surround yourself with happy, positive, and determined people, you will also enter this vibration. Now, if you surround yourself with people complaining, gossiping, and being pessimistic, be careful. Indeed, they can reduce your frequency and therefore prevent you from using the law of attraction in your favor. Third is the music. Music is very powerful. If you only listen to music that talks about death, betrayal, sadness, abandonment, all this will interfere with what you are feeling. Pay attention to the lyrics of the music you listen to. It could reduce your vibration frequency. And remember, you attract exactly what you feel in your life. Fourth is the things you look at. When you look at programs that deal with misfortunes, death, betrayals, etc., your brain accepts this as a reality and releases a whole chemistry into your body, which affects your vibration frequency. Look at things that do make you feel good and helps you vibrate at a higher frequency. Fifth is the atmosphere. Whether it's at work or at home, if you spend a lot of time in a messy and dirty environment, it will also affect your vibration frequency. Improve what surrounds you. Organize and clean your environment. Show the universe that you are fit to receive much more. Take care of what you already have. Sixth is the word. If you claim or speak wrong things about people, it affects your vibration frequency. To keep your frequency high, it is essential to eliminate the habit of complaining and bad talking about others. So avoid drama and bullying. Assume your responsibility for the choices of your life. And the last one, the seventh, is gratitude. Gratitude positively affects your vibration frequency. This is a habit you should integrate now into your life. Start to be thankful for everything, for the good things and what you consider to be bad. Thank you all for the experiences you've experienced. Gratitude opens the door for good things to happen positively in your life. And my own comment to that is we all know that we are spiritual beings that just have to inhabit a fleshly environment, and we do need to be careful what we feed ourselves.
Awesome. That actually sounds like practical information that'll help us actually navigate ascension. I've never heard it put like that before. Did you say Benji came up with that?
Yes, she sent it to me.
Excellent. Thank you, Benji, for finding it, and thank you, Carmen, for reading it. Oh, we've got technical gremlins. You've gone robot again.
Mic check.
No, comms bad. If I can put out a hello to Laura Heath in YouTube, do you reckon you could provide us with the 1 and 2 year deltas and any analysis that you might have about the Q posts, because I really miss getting that from you each morning. If you want to provide us with that information, I will broadcast it happily.
Mic check.
Oh, you're good now.
Okay, I don't know what happened, but anytime it gets spiritual, I get lost in space, kind of Twilight Zone, but then somehow or another I have a smooth landing right back in Discord.
Beautiful. There's a comment from Money Grip. I'm so glad I shut off my TV. I didn't just shut my TV off, I got rid of it entirely.
Oh, that was me. I got rid of the Dell computer and my TV. Oh, let's see, about 6 years ago. Now, last Christmas, the kids got me a TV, but it's just a dust collector. It's not even plugged in unless I want to watch old westerns or old black and white movies, and that's rare.
Hey, we got Backfer in the audience. G'day, old mate. How are you?
Backba, I remember your buttery biscuits, brother. Good to see you.
Hi, Backfa.
Okay, while we're waiting on Laura, who I'm hoping is feverishly typing out some information for all of us, I'll talk about the coming shows, particularly Friday and next week as well. Can I rely on you guys to actually spread the word? Channels like this grow hand to hand by word of mouth. If you can each tell 2 people, maybe we can find an audience of receptive, intelligent people who are open to this kind of information and need this kind of information. And Laura says she'll do her best. She's working on it. Okay. Thank you, Laura. And Kaijo got booted? Technical issues, or? I hope no one of the mods booted you. I quite love you, Kaijo. And Money Grip is a vet. If you're suffering from Gulf War illness, that means you've got skin in the game, my friend. All war is a manufactured blood sacrifice, and if you've been through that kind of hell of combat, you can lay that at the foot of the cabal. Anyway, back to the format for the show. If you can spread the word around, and also send them to the archives, because there's going to be a pretty healthy library of accurate, decent, useful information in the near future. And in the coming days, this show will become more nimble and more responsive. There's a whole lot of things that are happening in the world at the moment, and we will endeavour to bring you the information as it occurs. A platform like this is well placed to deal with that kind of information. We are nimble, we are responsive. So basically put, in the coming days, we're going to turn up the volume, and there'll be more hard information, basically news, the kind of news that you might get bits and pieces of in your own search. You will not get any of this information on mainstream media. But what we will do is, me and the team members, I think Ozanon is going to be take the lead on this project. We're going to put together information packages that are relevant, timely, and interesting. And so basically, we're going to turn the volume up, and we'll see what YouTube has to say about that. The YouTube algorithmic demons might actually shut us down, but who knows? All we can do is give it our best. And hopefully we're at a stage in the process where a channel like this will be allowed to continue. And Money Group thanks me, and I thank you back. And Karen, if you want to extend a personal invitation to BE, that would be great. BE has an excellent wit, and he's really quite knowledgeable too. He'd be great to have out in chat. I kind of miss him. He's a pretty smart guy. Okay, Laura. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say Beatles was always reliable.
So, the format. Go ahead.
I miss him too.
By the way, BAFTA stands for Bread and Circuses for America. That is our Mean Team Delta leader. That is our captain, our captain. I'm sorry. I got great memories of BACPA and having my morning coffee as he read the news too.
After we finish listening to Dumpster and Kaz.
Exactly.
That's
The
going
best
back a
morning
ways.
tip. Oh, it was a great way to wake up, Dumpster, because I would wake up every morning about 3 a.m. and then before I had to head out to do what I needed to do, BACPA would sew it all up, and then I listened to the chopper crew to start my day. But yeah, good times. Believe me, I have met some wonderful brothers and sisters out here in the Q movement. I wouldn't trade them for anything. I'm proud to stand shoulder to shoulder with them.
Okay, we've got a response from Laura. She was kind enough to provide us with that would be the 1 year delta. Q post 3027, and the text for that is time in Russia with 8th in the kill box. Do you believe in coincidences? Intercepts are revealing Q. Next, we have post 3029. 4 to 6% brainwashed will never wake up even when presented with the facts. That's a pretty poignant Q post right there. That means 4 to 6% of people are irretrievable. What makes me wonder is, why do people fight to maintain the prison that they're in? People are basically in a paper cage. All they have to do is tear up the page and step out. I find it really quite amazing. It's 4 to 6% are people irretrievable. That's really quite disappointing, but probably inevitable. And then we have QPost 3030, memes, and more memes. Wake up America, facts matter, save America, united not divided. Where we go one, we go all Q. And mimetic warfare, or it's a good tactic on the information battlefield. And then we have QPost 3032, Michael Gator, FBI Rome. Q. I'm not sure what to make of that one. And then we have 3033, and this one is, I remember this one actually. Stay in the light. Remain in open comms with Senator Graham and Grassley, RE Whistleblower Protection Act. They will take your phone calls. That could be extrapolated into a number of different things. But like I've said before, I'm sure Q is like crossword puzzles, and we have to see how it all unfolds. And thank you for that, Laura Heath. And I think Laura is responding to the 4 to 6% that are unreachable. And Laura says, I live with someone in that group. It's sad. It is sad, but we have to keep moving forward. I'd like to say no one left behind, but being realistic, some people are just not going to make the journey, make the adjustment.
Well, true. I think that was the biggest reconcile I had to face because I had family and friends in real life that just faded away. Got angry, got pissed, called me crazy, stuff like that. But I'll say more than half came back. The others are just gone. I can't look back, kind of like Lot's wife, because I've already shed that. I've already sort and rolled that. Kind of like boundaries are necessary. I'm surprised it's not more, actually. With the pharmaceutical effect on the mental illness healthcare system and all that, I'm really surprised it's not more than a 4%.
Thank you for your contributions, Laura.
Is everybody in YouTube chat able to read Discord? And if you can, please throw a 5x5 up.
Yeah, video definition is actually something I've been thinking about. If the Discord screen for you is nice and clear, give us a 5x5 or tell us negative.
Yeah, I've already waterboarded Facebook and Twitter about 3 times with this show, so, and I'm tagging in as I remember names. I've got so many following me. By the way, for my crew that I know your names, but I'm not going to dox you, thank you for coming and showing support.
And Oz has been dropping the juice. Unfortunately, the technical setup at the moment means that it's not able to be addressed by me. But I will have the platform improved, not perfect, but improved by Friday. And as I said, in the coming days, as this situation unfolds, we will bring you chunks and chunks of hard data and probably a little bit of analysis. Okay, looks like the video is adequate. Excellent. Thanks, Laura and Puppy. As I said, we're basically going to turn up the volume a little bit, or quite a lot, as the case may be. There is information going on in this world at the moment that it'll be easy to get the information, but it'll be very much more difficult to actually present it in coherent chunks that you guys can absorb. It'll be a learning process for me, but we've got Oz on the job, and she'll take the lead on that research. I'm happy to say I'm in a position where we've got additional manpower. We've got friends and people online that are going to help us with this. And I will repeat, the next show is on Friday, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Friday at 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, New York. Adjust for your own geographic location. That's mid-evening for Australia and about lunchtime for Europe. And if you do come across someone who is interested in this kind of stuff but doesn't know much, I think the first couple of archives will be a very valuable learning resource. I try and make the information accessible. And Jeremiah Valancourt says, please news and analyze. Certainly, that's what we're aiming to do. We're still letting the format settle. And we will up our game. We will up the intensity. And hopefully we can get some sort of platform up and running that's stable in YouTube. And we'll bring you the facts and a little bit of analysis as I am able to do so. And Backer's got a great comment. He says, watching the fear of the Democratic establishment in the face of a Bernie win makes me think there are a few more sensible folks. I'm just afraid the bulk of those capable are wolves who want sheeple. Good point, Backfar. We might be dealing with a situation where 4 to 6% are unreachable, but an unknown percentage are actively bad. It's not a matter of reclaiming them. It's a matter of turning them around. And I'll also make the statement that at this point in the movement, we are actually looking at a kind of situation where we're going to be destroying things. We're going to be destroying social structures, political structures. It's changing. And at this point, I think we need to start thinking about solutions that we can offer to people. We have to show not what's wrong, but also show them what's possible. I hope I expressed that accurately. Thanks, Backva. I hope to see you again sometime.
That's a lot of resignations, Asanan.
This is the kind of stuff I'd love to be able to bring to you, but technically I'm simply not able to at the moment. I'll have that rectified by Friday.
Well, take your time. This is our first week as basics, bro.
Okay, we're coming up on 2.5 hours. There's a platform test that I need to do sometime before I end the stream. Carmen or Benji, is there anything you'd like to table, address, or bring up, or discuss, or anything at all? And g'day, My Way. Nice to have you here.
My brain's still not feeling like it's fully awake.
Mary's got an interesting comment. What's really funny is that we, and I'm assuming she's meaning us, we are basically the same as the Democratic Party these first loved. That's right, the Democratic Party has been hijacked. If you go back in time, the Democratic Party would have been a more positive force and a more engaging political organization.
Oh, I totally agree. JFK Democrat is now the new Republican Party. And you know what I was thinking about it? I'm a boomer, so it's like a lot of things have come together history-wise in a generation since the birth of Israel was placed, since they gave it its home. So it's kind of ironic. All these dots are connecting and what we're learning about each phase of it. I can't help but get excited when I hear about lost civilizations and where places in history. I'm kind of a history buff. And the bloodlines are so important to you. I do recommend going to YouTube. There's a lot of bloodline YouTube channels. I think George Magazine has the best one, or the Anonymous Crew. It would benefit you to know about bloodlines and how we have today's actors and how they're related to those back in the.
On that note, I've actually got a half a presentation up my sleeve at the moment about what the Cabal actually is. I'm not sure what the appropriate time is to present that information. It's people that have been in this movement for a little while will understand pretty much everything I have to say, but it will become required knowledge for new people. So I'll have that in the can as a resource. And hopefully I can build up a sort of a library as a resource. And
also, Dumpster, don't forget we've got the Red Pill 1Q1 handbook that what we started a couple of years ago. We can try to get everybody in YouTube chat to get out there and red pill some of their families that having difficulty. Because I know when I worried about mine, the good ones eventually came around and God, they just are in the movement and being active. I can't be any more blessed than that. So I know a lot of people are weary about that, but don't worry, you're not alone. We've all been through it.
Bactor's made a very, very generous offer to use the materials on his channel. I may do so, Bactor. I have the problem that I have too much source material and too much manpower. But the offer is very kind, and thank you. I may just use that. And I hope to see you around, mate. And Jeremiah Valancourt makes the point that the bloodlines are important. I'll actually be discussing that at some point in the What is the Cabal presentation. I don't know if I'll do that on Friday. We might have a special guest, or we might just roll with the flow and bring up topics and pieces of information that are time critical. Let me put it that way. Cheers,
hey, Dumpster, I just had an idea. I have an idea.
Yeah, shoot.
How about inviting Backbud to come in one morning and hanging with you? He's a delightful president.
Backford, did you hear that? You've got an invitation, mate. If Benji wants you, I want you. I'll be busy for a couple of hours after the show, after I end the broadcast. And get in touch with me, mate. We can work together, that I'm sure.
In fact, I still share your videos over on Facebook and stuff, but I'll be glad to drop a link in YouTube chat. I'll be right back.
Yeah, that would be actually great. Baxter's in a similar position to myself. We've both put in thousands of hours behind the mic. We're comfortable speakers. We're both pretty acute, and I'm sure Baxter has some very interesting. Oh, hang on. Carmen Morrison says, absolutely. Everyone who is awake at 8 p.m. on Mondays should watch Bakfa at Last Scout Radio. There you go. That's 8 p.m. on Mondays. I'm assuming that's a 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Tune in and watch Bakfa. And Bakfa says I will sync up on Discord. And I don't know what sync up means, but we'll get our shit together. Oh, sorry about my French. Whoops. And Kane Dre. Now we can start the party. You're late, brother. It's almost over. And I don't know if I've said this yet, but the bloodlines with Jeremiah Valancourt says bloodlines are important. In one of the coming presentations, I will discuss the idea of the 13 families in depth. That's coming up sooner or later. And Jeremiah says Red Pill 78 or Space Shot. If Red Pill or Space Shot gets this message, get in touch with me. I'm sure we can work together and sort something out. And Bakfa, mate, it's not a matter of dropping in and hijacking the show. It's about collective efforts. I'm really happy to see you here, actually.
So am I.
Yeah, Carmen and I have a whole bunch of honey for those biscuits.
You've gone all robot again, Benji.
Dang it.
Carmen, do you know what Benji was just about to refer to?
No, I don't. I couldn't make it out.
Are you back? Oh, hang on a minute. We have the mighty Kaz in chat. Morning, sunshine. Oh, evening, sorry. It's really good to have you here. Hit me up after the show if you don't mind. Benji, did you have additional material you wanted addressed? Okay, folks, it looks like we're getting to the wrap-up stage. Carmen, if you could play a song, and do you still have that video that you had that has moving images and a soundtrack so that I can test a full-screen broadcast, please? And after that, we will... Good for you, Kaz. Wonderful to have you on board. I wanted to do the media test for full screen video, but let's have a song, and yeah, we'll let chat roll for a little while, but I can't let this roll on for too long. I had problems uploading the last show because it was over 3.5 hours long, and YouTube wasn't quite processing it quick. And yeah, So a bit of music, Carmen, and then if you could then drop a piece of video that I can play to test the video screening capabilities of this platform.
Did I send that one to you as a DM?
I can't actually access Discord at the moment. It's a complicated technical issue.
Well, I'll start the song and then I'll go see if I can find it.
Okie dokes. And before that, Laura Heath has a really great catch, and it is Q Post 26. And it's another mirror, 311. So we know that Q gives us these kinds of hints, and it's Q Post 26. Think about it logically. The only way is the military. Fully controlled, save and spread. Once 11.3 verifies as the first marker, biggest advance drop on poll. So that's an interesting idea. We've got the combination of Q team and the military, and think about it logically, the only way is the military. I'm thinking the Marines here. POTUS is in direct command of the Marines, so that's a very interesting line of inquiry. And we are going to have to wrap up, but not for a little while.
Are you ready for that song?
Just a moment. Puppy Max, would you like to step off the waterfall and actually go to voice? If you don't wish to do so, that's more than acceptable. I've unmuted you. I actually had you still muted from the last show. I'm still getting a handle on this. Go for it, Puppy Max. Okay, it looks like Puppy Max isn't ready to mic up. Let's roll with the... Oh, hang on. Q Post 15, 11th of the 3rd, Podesta indicted. If we see one of the Podestas arrested or indicted or anything or moves against the Podestas, I'm going to be a happy, happy man. Thank you, Laura. Song time, maybe. Did you want to play music or did you want me to do the video test now?
I've got a song ready.
Let's roll with the song and then we'll do the video test, and that'll give us another tool in the toolkit for future shows.
Okay.
Excellent. And Jeremiah Valancourt says this is a worldwide movement. It sure is. But the action is all in America at the moment, so that's why I'm on an American platform. If the United States goes down, the rest of the world follows. So, yeah, I'm behind Q and behind POTUS. Okay, I'm going to try an experiment now. This is experimental. I need a 5x5 if you can see the vision and hear the actual soundtrack. Laura, worldwide, baby. Make the world great again. Absolutely. Just a moment, I'll get myself sorted out, and then I will try this experiment. This is just a platform test at the moment, so bear with me, folks.
Mic check.
You sound good now, sister.
Well, God, more than YouTube. I need to sit down and put my feet up and have some popcorn.
And more coffee.
You read my mind, sister. Now I gotta get up. But I am vertical, and I did a little elder-sized dance to that last song. I like that vibe, Dubster. Good tune.
voice, sister.
I hope you find this peaceful and relaxing. I'm so happy the platform works. This is another tool in the toolkit. I'm still figuring out copyright issues with videos, but I will be able to bring you things like videos from within tweets and so forth.
Y'all hear me?
I can indeed, Poppy. How you doing, Ruz?
Doing, mate?
Just a moment and I'll end this test. Do you want to line up any content you wish to address? Anything at all? At the very least, you should introduce yourself and say hello to the world.
Well, after the music. Yeah. 5x5.
Okay, just another couple of minutes and this video will be over. Successful media test.
Take the red pill.
I think I took both.
Hey, Oscar on live with us.
Oh, she just spoke. You stepped off the waterfall, dear friend. It's easy, smooth sailing from here on in.
It's no different than talking to us in private.
Okay. Puppy Max or Oz, do you guys want to go ahead and just say hello to the world? And just maybe tell us a little bit about yourself. If you don't feel comfortable, that's quite alright. But it's no big deal.
Nope.
Once you step off, it's just all smooth sailing.
No problems about telling the world about myself. Bit nervous though.
Okay.
Yeah, Benji.
Oh, sorry, go ahead, sir.
Shy. Good day, everyone.
Give us your call sign and a rough geographic location and a little bit of information, just anything at all. Perhaps you could tell us how you found Q, what your hopes for the future are, anything at all, mate.
I hear several voices right now. Oh, it's I have a feedback of like 2 minutes.
Yeah, our delay is over 40 seconds. I can adjust that, but I'm not sure how. Again, the platform is experimental.
Right. Well, good day, world. My name is Puppy Max. I'm from the Netherlands. I live in a suburb of The Hague.
Thank you. We can do a little bit of mic testing after the show, and there'll be a post-show team meeting. Please turn up for that if you can. And Oz, do you reckon you could mic up and just say a few more words? Okay, that's all right. That's all right. Don't worry about it. It can be quite confronting in your own time, when and if you wish. Um, I'll repeat one point that I wanted to make again. In the coming days and weeks, we're going to be addressing information that is relevant and timely, and you won't be able to get it aggregated together with a little bit of analysis from myself and the rest of the team. We're going to turn the volume up, and hopefully the YouTube algorithms will not shut us down. But there are no guarantees at this point. That's cool, Oz. I hope she's doing okay. Okie dokes. I'm going to take a back seat now and back out. If you want to play songs, Carmen, that's cool. If you've got any information you want to propagate, Benji, that'd be cool. We're in the wind down section of the show.
Well, I want to say, everybody have a great day. Be blessed in your effort. Live the example. Represent Q the movement. And remember, the best is yet to come.
Puppy, you've got technical issues. We can sort that out before I go to bed this evening if you'd like, mate. No, we're still up and running at the moment, but we're getting towards the end of the show. So start to say your goodbyes and so forth. And please, 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 if you appreciated this information, we will not ask you for a single cent. We are not that kind of patriot. I don't want a penny for what I'm doing. I'm doing it because it's the right thing to do. And please, 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 pass the information on to other Anons. Channels like this grow from hand to hand and word of mouth. And the platform is evolving, will be more responsive, and the information will be, we will be addressing salient information, let me put it that way. Oz, in your own time, if and when, no hassles.
If I missed my cue, I'm sorry. I got kicked off a voice and had to go reconnect.
Oh, okay. Are you up and running at the moment, Carmen?
I think so.
Okay, play us out with a couple of songs, maybe?
Okay.
opens for the righteous. The river opens for the righteous someday. I was walking with my brother. He said, brother, tell me what's on your mind. I said, what I see with my eyes ain't what I feel in my soul. And we can't turn our backs this time. 'Cause I am a patriot and I love my country, because my country is all that I know. I wanna be with my family, people who understand me, 'cause I got nowhere else to go. And the river opens for the righteous. The river opens for the righteous. The river opens for the righteous someday. I was walking with my sister. She looked so fine. I said, tell me what's on your mind. She said, I wanna run like a lion, released from the cages, released from the rages burning in my heart tonight. 'Cause I am a patriot and I love my country, because my country is all that I know. I wanna be with my family, with people who understand me, 'cause I got nowhere else to go. And I ain't no communist, but I ain't no imperialist. And I ain't no socialist, but I ain't no capitalist. And I ain't no Democrat, but I ain't no Republican. I only know one party, that is freedom. 'Cause I am a patriot, and I love my country, because my country is all that I know. I wanna be with my family, people who understand me, 'cause I got nowhere else to go. And the river opens for the righteous. The river opens for the righteous. The river opens for the righteous someday.
Okay guys, I'm gonna back out now. I'll leave the stream open for no more than 15 minutes. It's gonna take me half an hour to process the video, and then I might suggest a team meeting if that's possible. Go for it, guys. Whatever you want. If no one wants to talk, we'll just play a little more music. But good night, all. Dumpster out.
I'd just like to remind everybody, pay attention to what's important and tell the folks that around you that you love them. Don't ever forget that. I love you too.
Let's try it again.
Go ahead, Puppy Max. We're listening.
All right. Love you too, sister. Love everyone. Oh, this is Puppy Max from the Netherlands. Finally got it here. So, still testing. Till next time. I'm a bit nervous.
You did just fine.
Thank you, Carmen. I don't know what's wrong because, I hear my voice about 2 minutes later and then I hear the music twice. That's good, actually. It's a good song.
Could be a mic.
Oh.
Sunshine.
Hey, Dumpster.
We are Max.
You're roboting again, sister. Well, if nobody has anything else to say, I can take us out with one last song.
Sorry, I didn't realize you were still on air. Sorry.
Well, Dumpster says sign off, please. So this is Carmen, and I will see you guys Friday morning, 6 o'clock. Love ya.